workshop so far? Two of them? Yeah, awesome. And who is this their first time coming to see? Maybe you're coming to this workshop, but you also might know Loren from in town. A huge thank you to Michonne for putting all of these on and really connecting us.
Yeah, totally.
So it's been so incredibly beneficial to all of us. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for showing up, because if you don't show up, then it's not worth their time, right? And so not just showing up, but learning and then implementing it into our bodies as quick as possible. So then we start to understand what I know for sure is what Loren taught us from the first time is injury prevention isn't a thing, but self-awareness and being cognizant of how to keep ourselves as safe as possible is very real and something that we all do the more that we pay attention to what we're doing in life. It doesn't mean we're afraid, because a lot of times we're afraid of things that actually can cause injuries, but it just coming with self-awareness. Where are your feet? Can you feel your toes? Can you feel your body? Can you breathe? Can you relax tension? Like all of these things bring you closer to that athlete that we all are, right? Our sport is life. We are all athletes, and we want to be as good as possible. So thank you again so much for coming.
Yes,
it's so good
yes.
to see you
Thanks
again.
for having me again.
I'm so sorry I wasn't here on the last one. I was out of
Oh,
town,
that's
but
okay.
I'm super excited that I'm in town for this.
Yeah, thank you. Well, if you've come to more than one, there's that quote, right? The first one's shame on you, the second one's shame on me. No. Yeah, this is a different, if you came to the first one of mine, and then you came to Sarah's, Dr. Sarah's, this is much less talk, much more movement. So, Kathy, I saw Kathy at LA Bakery this week. She was eating so clean, but she said to me, Loren, is this really good? We're gonna talk an hour about squats? I loved it. It was amazing. I laughed all day about it. Ironically, if you know anything about me after the first seminar, the first time I ever put this on, it was a 2-hour seminar. So I've cut this in half. There is so much we can talk about with squats, trying to make your squat better. I took out a lot of the nuance pieces, and here's the heavy hitters today, okay? If we don't target something that you know is a limitation, I'm happy to talk through it with you, okay? But these are the heavy hitters. So today we're gonna talk about squats. And just like in the seminar on injury prevention, we're gonna first hit some research. I bought a clicker, so I don't have to do this all the time, and it doesn't work. So this seminar and anything that you're doing, take pictures. You guys have the slides. We don't do this to keep a proprietary knowledge. We want this, the reason we started all of this, the reason the Health Lab started was because we want people to have knowledge for themselves, because that's gonna have you see medical system less. It's gonna have you see us less. Like, we want the Carson City surrounding area to have more knowledge because it's better for you. So don't at all think that you shouldn't be sharing any of this with your friends or family. Today we're gonna talk truth into lies first. That's the research part. We're gonna talk about what squat performance looks like. What is a good squat? We're also gonna talk through, I'm gonna teach you what clinical reasoning is. This piece right here is where the medical system's failing for a number of reasons. We've lost clinical reasoning. And if you can do this for yourself, you can then therefore do it so much better on the second half of this. We're gonna then look at, from the foot to the bar, how to assess typical limitations that are there. I'm gonna show you the thing, how to assess it. Then, if it's not a limitation, ignore it. Spending time on limitations that aren't a limitation for you is a waste of your time. When you find a limitation, then work it and use the clinical reasoning to work it only until it's no longer a limitation, then ignore it, okay? And then I'm going to show you some special considerations for the squat, for training your squat, and some other pieces there. And there's 70 slides. We're going to do it in an hour. We're going to rip through this. Okay.
Let's go.
I like that. So in our clinic setting and in a culture and even in the gym, we have these statements. Squats, full squats wear out your joints. We got full squats are dangerous. We have full squats damage your kneecaps. Full squats are no better than half squats. Don't let your knees pass your toes. This one was a beautiful little gym that came out of my profession. Squats wear out your meniscus. Like, squats are dangerous. You hear so often professionals saying, well, you shouldn't be squatting because your knees are bad, right? And then we get these fear-based belief systems that really integrate back into the first seminar we did, which was pain injury prevention. And then we avoid the squat. And the reason we're talking about the squat today is because I think pound for pound, the squat is the most beneficial thing we could be doing for our health and longevity and wellness, okay? So when we have all of these belief systems that are telling us to be fearful of the squat, and it's the number one thing that's the best thing for us, man, there's a conflict there, right? And until we understand that all of these aren't true, we're going to be hesitant and fearful to squat, which, like we talked about, hesitancies and fears and beliefs are more likely to get us injured in the future. So if we can break these down and show that they're lies, now all of a sudden we're going to have less injuries with the squat, okay? All right. So let's hammer these ones first. These all have the same underscore of belief that squats are going to hurt your anatomy. We have a culture that says wear and tear. The more I do, the more I'm going to wear down my system. That, as we highlighted in the first one, is not true. Sedentary, highly processed ultra-food diets are the things that are going to progress our anatomy natural course of wearing down faster than being active. Active people have healthier joints over the lifespan. Okay. Let's look at, instead of giving you the research and all the numbers, I'm going to just highlight some of the pieces so we can rip through this. So when they looked at deep squats, tons of studies, they pulled all the data together and they looked at deep squats. There was no risk to the tissue. And because when we talked about, remember the bucket analogy, if you were at my pain science thing, the bucket allows us to have this armor of protection against injuries. The squat builds such good muscle mass that it's protective in nature to injuries, and it actually reduces the risk of injuries, and it's so building of muscle. Like, man, the squat and the deep squat's good. So no risk to tissues when we deep squat. When we look at Olympic lifters, which here's a picture of an Olympic lifter, okay? There's a deep squat with a lot of weight, okay? For her body weight, she's doing a lot of weight, more than her body weight. When they looked at Olympic lifters compared to non-squatters, so these Olympic lifters are squatting all of the time, and they're squatting a lot of load, right? When we have the wear and tear belief systems, these people are going to have damaged knees. Wrong. The ACL and the PCL in these Olympic lifters, so the ligaments that sit inside your knee, they cross like this and they sit inside your knee, those ligaments were thicker and more robust in the Olympic squatters than non-squatters. When you work out, we build muscle, and we only think we're building muscle. But when we put stress on our body, everything gets bigger, stronger, more robust. The ACL, PCL is no different. So we're building thicker, stronger ligaments when we squat, okay? We also saw thicker meniscus. The meniscus is that nice collagen tissue that sits on top of our shin bone that helps support the knee. It's thicker. We also saw thicker cartilage, which is the lining of the bone. So all of these things are thicker in people who are regularly squatting than non-squatters. That kind of goes against our cultural belief system, the wear and tear belief. So there's the Olympic squatter, right? Okay. Good? So first lie, squatting wears out your body. Not true. The second lie, don't let your knees past your toes. This came out of kind of my profession, the physical therapy world. What happened was there was a research article, a couple that came out, and they had people squat to 90 and back up. And for a long time, you'll see even research in the spine. They had people in different positions of the spine, and what they did is they had force meters in the discs, and they were like, there's more pressure in this position versus this position, so therefore that position is more risky for the back, right? We always think more pressure must be worse. In this study, what they were looking at is when they were, so we have, you're going to see another study in a minute, but they were looking at the pressure at the knee joint, the kneecap joint, the knee and on the femur, the compression at the femur. And they found that when people, so they restricted, they didn't let, when they had a normal squat, like my knees are going past my toes, when they let them do that, that's in the blue, versus when they had them keep their knees or they're behind their toes, there was less force. So they said, it must be better to have your knee not go past your toe, okay? So, and there was another avenue of research going on that saw, and you're going to see this in a minute, as you squat, the pressure in your kneecap goes up all the way to 90. So therefore, if we go deeper, it must only get worse, and more pressure is worse. So therefore, let's keep the knees past the toes. Now there's rehabilitative times where we want to do this, but here's the negative. So we saw a torsional load decrease at the knee of 22% when we kept the knees behind the toes. Then they said, let's do some more research. Let's put a pressure gauge, a torsional pressure gauge at the knee, and let's put a torsional pressure gauge at the hip. There was over 1,000% increased torsional load at the hip. So we get a little drop at the knee, we get a huge spike at the hip. This is not worth this. So if I'm squatting, look at my system is very symmetrically loaded. When I do this, I am really loading the hip at a rate that maybe is not worth it. So yeah, maybe my knee feels a little better, but maybe we should just treat the knee so it doesn't hurt when we squat, so that we don't long-term, torsionally 1,000% higher, load the hip. But this belief system's, you've all heard this, right? Keep your knees behind your toes. This is my profession's fault, okay? So, let your knees travel how they need to squat to full depth. It's really hard to go full depth with your knees behind your toes. This is a person, same bar, same weight, same shoes, same everything. All he's being forced to do is keep his knees behind his toes, okay? This is a very beautiful position, very beautiful. This isn't bad, but think what happens to the hip. Now we know 1,000% increased load. Look at his spine. His spine is now much more horizontally loaded, which isn't bad. There's no such thing as a bad movement, but he's gonna put a lot more force into the spine. His spine is gonna get stronger, but is this the goal of the squat? No. So we're stealing from Paul to pay Peter, and this is not what the goal of the squat is, okay? All right, last one. Told you we're gonna go fast through this. Full squats are dangerous. So this came out of we already highlighted this study. Initial study, the red dot was the theoretical belief that as I squat deeper, the pressure at my kneecap and femur is only gonna go up. That must be bad. Therefore, stay above 90, right? Because it's dangerous to have more pressure. Well, the second articles that came out, they had the people go full depth, and you saw, here's 90, here's the peak of the pressure where those first studies stopped. As they went deeper, the pressure actually kind of plateaued, if not died down. So what's happening here is a couple things. Here's the anatomy of it. What's happening here is, as I'm squatting down, my kneecap's gliding up my femur. So it's moving up my femur, or sorry, down my femur, I'm sorry. So it's going down my femur. As it's going down the femur, the two surfaces, the main surfaces of the kneecap are becoming more, they have more contact, more surface area with the femur. So this pressure is spreading out across a bigger area, so the pressures are going down because there's more surfaces that are in contact, okay? Also, if you could appreciate, this is the tendon that connects all of your muscles of your quad to your kneecap. That's starting to wrap around the top of the femur, and it's taking some of the load off of the kneecap alone. So we're getting a quad tendon wrapping effect that's taking some of the load. So we're spreading the load across a bigger surface and the pressure drops. What's important about this is, as I'm moving, because my kneecap is sliding up and down my femur as I'm moving, think I'm sliding one way and then I'm transitioning that shear force the opposite way as I get out of the squat. What's happening if I don't squat to the bottom, the depth, I'm changing my shear force of the kneecap on the femur at the highest peak of force. If I go a little deeper, I'm actually changing that shear force direction with less compression on the kneecap. So how I think of this is, if I'm at a nightclub and I've got my shoes on because I'm not very fashionable, and I step on someone's toe while dancing and then I slide across it, versus like my wife back in the day before we had kids was wearing like stilettos and she would step on someone's horse and shear across it, you want the flat shoe, right? Less contact force. When we go full depth, we're shearing that patella with less force at a better spread out position. So it's potentially better for our knees. So full depth squats are not dangerous. Full depth squats are no better. So you'll see, we always like to take professional athletes and put them into our world. And that's not a bad thing. But what you'll get is like professional basketball players will do a bunch of high loaded squats at like a quarter depth squat, okay? Very, very high loads, quarter depth squat. And they'll even start doing like jumping at the quarter depth squat. In their training, they're doing full depth squats. But they're specifying some of their training because in basketball, when they go to get a rebound, they're doing this and then jumping up for the rebound. It's specificity of training. And people will see this and they're like, well, the pros are only doing quarter depth squats, so clearly that's the best thing. It's the best thing if you're trying to get a rebound, but we're not trying to get a rebound, we're trying to get off the toilet, right? And so what you'll see is, oh, look at this, I didn't have this done. 1 second, late night changes. So what you'll see is, okay, what do we want to get out of a squat? We want to get function. Remember, we talked about a lot of things. Muscle mass is the armor to protection of life. When we look at knee health, longevity of knee health, one of the biggest predictors of knee health is how big your quad is. More quad, better knee health, okay? How do we get more quad? Full depth squat. So what they did was same parameters, okay, for two groups of people. They had them squatting twice a week for 10 weeks. So it was long enough to produce physiological adaptation, right? It takes 8 weeks for the muscles to start to get thicker, stronger. They had them do 3 sets of 8 twice a week at 80 to 90% of their 1 rep max. They were squatting heavy, okay? Half the group went to half depth, 90 degrees, and the other went full depth. So everything was the same except for the depth of the squat. The blue is the full depth squat group and the red is the half depth squat group. So they're doing nearly the same amount of work, but the full depth squat group got significantly more muscle mass at the end of the 10 weeks. So if we want to build some muscle mass, which I think is the goal of the squat, we might as well go full depth because we're not going to get the same outcomes if we go half. So when we talk about full depths are no better, well, for us in our life, we want muscle mass. Full depths are better for a lot of reasons. Shear force at the kneecap, decrease of compression at the kneecap, and we get more gains for the time that we're putting in. Remember, like we talked about at the end of the first seminar with me on injury prevention, Muscle mass is so near and dear to our hearts at the Health Lab because we talked about this quickly at the end. There's an inverse relationship between non-communicable diseases and muscle mass. And what that means is the more muscle mass I have over a lifespan, as I'm aging, the more muscle mass I retain, the less likely I'm going to have any musculoskeletal diseases. Remember, we're going to have some. Metabolic disease, cognitive ability goes up. So you can download a thing on your phone and you could play mental games, right? The puzzles. Those haven't been shown to be effective. Muscle mass is one of the biggest predictors of cognitive ability as we age.
Yay, come to your workout.
Right? So dementia. So there's a study, 80% of cancers are correlated with your muscle mass. So the more muscle mass you have, the less likely you're to get 80% of cancers. Okay? Cardiovascular disease, neurological disease. When they looked at all-cause mortality, what were all of the reasons you were to die? You were less likely to die the more muscle mass you had. Okay? So when we look at all of these things, the inverse relationship, the less muscle mass I have, the more likely I am to have all of these things. So we might as well build some muscle mass. And how do we do that? Full depth squats. It's going to be better. So, any arguments, rebuttals, questions to this? Yeah.
Well, just so when we're in class, for example, and you tell someone to get deep into their squat, they're going to say, "I can't because of my knees."
Yep.
And
that's beautiful. That's we rushed through this because that's the meat and potatoes of this whole lecture. Yes, exactly, totally. And the question, the second question of this is it because you're fearful of your knees? Or is it because it actually hurts your knees? Because those are two different pathways. My hope is, this first part is, if you're fearful of your knees, we just hopefully started to fight that belief. Another thing, Kathy, I'm going to pick on you. Another thing that Kathy said to me after the pelvic, she said, everyone's kind of mad at Dr. Sarah. I'm like, oh, why? Right? Because culturally we have these things and these that we do, like, oh, jump rope day, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Now everyone's like, gosh, well, I'm not supposed to go to the bathroom, right? And so there's a less of an excuse for you to be fearful. It doesn't mean you're not gonna be fearful. But it is the thing, if we can start fighting the fear belief systems, all of a sudden we are doing a full depth squat and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't have this adverse effect that I thought I was gonna have. The challenge is the first piece. Putting it into motion and seeing what happens is the second piece. If there's limitations, we're going to work the third piece. If these limitations don't fix with that, we can help you with this, right? But first we got to fight the fear. Okay. Yeah, great thought. Okay. When we look at the points of performance, you guys have great coaches. These are just ours. We want a neutral spine. I'm going to argue this is actually not as important as we want to make it to believe. I have a little bit, it's called a pelvic wink. When I hit the bottom of my squat, my back flexes a little bit. Ironically, everyone back flexes when we squat. Of all the research, we put pressure sensor, movement monitor sensors on people's spines. We've never seen anybody keep a neutral spine when they squat, but we do have a neutral spine goal, right? Straight lines are strong lines. We want a neutral spine. We want the hip and knee movement to be equal. What I don't want is like a stripper squat, right? Right? What? Someone said, we'll do the twerk. We also don't want this fall back squat. We want the knee and hip to go out, away from midline at an equal rate. Okay? That's why I can't do that if I keep my knees behind my toes. Okay? We also want, we're going to talk at the very last piece, there's an exception to this rule, but we also want my knees to be over the second toe or wide of. We don't want this or this. We want a nice, good, stable position with the knees, okay? We also want the foot to be in full contact. Think about your foot as a tripod. Big toe, little toe, heel. We want 3 points of contact. We don't want this with the foot. We don't want this with the foot. We want full contact. For the full depth, if I think about my hip crease, the full depth is kind of considered when my crease goes below the top of my knee, right? Okay, so that's considered full depth. We want somewhere in this range, okay? And then on the way out, we want the movement to go back to midline at the same rate. We want the knees and the hips to hit center at the same time. We don't want a stripper return. And that's what you're normally gonna see. It's weird to see let me see if I can do it, like that return. That's very unusual. We want center together, okay? I work on that a lot. I've worked on that a lot. Tetro? Okay. Not that. Questions on this? That's the goal, okay? Stripper squat. Yeah.
Toes are pointed out.
We'll talk about that.
Nikki eats a vegan meal, which probably has no calories, and then she does 30 squats.
Beautiful squats, actually.
Beautiful squats.
She eats.
Every time she eats?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or go for a walk.
That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. You go, you do something.
30 squats
Cool.
or a walk.
That's awesome. I love that. So when we look at this guy squatting, he's doing an overhead squat. It's a very difficult squat. It requires a lot from the body. He's not hitting full depth, right? This is the bottom of his squat. He's also got his left heel up. And when you look from the front, you won't see it, but he's actually shifting into the left leg. So he's not hitting all the metrics of the performance. This is what's so impressive. When I've come into the gyms and worked out with groups, the coach is pretty dang good at giving cues. Like, they'll see something, they'll give a cue, and the squat will get better, right? But a lot of times, as our colleague, as we're working out with our buddies and everything else, we'll say something. Until we assess it, if it's something that's not getting better, we're just guessing on what's this guy's problem, right? We have no clue, really. It's a guess. And we could give tons of guesses, but it's just a guess if we don't assess. Even worse, like, look at this guy's squat, right? How? So he's got non-neutral spine. He's kind of hitting depth. I don't know what's up with this foot. His knees are behind his toes, but he's still got like weird, wild depth, like wild. And what's amazing is, like, coaching, good coaches, your guys as coaches could correct this, and we could probably make it a lot better. But if it's not perfect, why? We don't know. Like, what's his limitation? Like, how do we know what his limitations are? How do we treat his limitations? We don't know. And this is what we're gonna try to work on today, right? Finding your own limitations for yourself. Okay. All right. How do we treat it? We could do 1,000 things for treatment. What we do is far less important than treating the right tissue, okay? We could get a voodoo doll and do some crazy stuff. A lot of times when someone's just new to squatting, they actually need less cueing and less feedback. They just need to squat, like figure out how their body's moving, right? We could cup them, we could Theragun them, we could dry needle them, we could do some exercise, we could change their shoes, we could just scream at them more. Like, a lot of different things, ultimately, but we want to figure out the limitation. Okay, so here's clinical assessment. Here's what I want you guys to work on for yourselves. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna teach you an assessment of a body part, okay? If your assessment is fine, you're not gonna work on this. It's a waste of your time. If so, just go squat. If you have a limitation, I'm gonna show you a treatment for it. This is not special. You could Google treatments for my limited calves, and you could find thousands of things. Find the thing that changes the positive limitation you have. So if I show you something and it doesn't work for you, you're gonna do the treatment. What you'll hear a lot of times is like, the physical therapist gave me this 14 years ago and I've been doing it every day since, right? I want you to stop doing it, because in a couple weeks when you retest, if that test is no longer limited, now go squat. Stop wasting your time. If it's still limited but better, less limited, work it some more. If it's no better, the thing you tried to do didn't help it, do something different. Doing the same thing, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, right? So this is your loop until this is no longer positive, and then stop doing the thing. That's what we're gonna work on today, okay? All right. The number one biggest limitation typically is the ankle. So we're gonna start there, all right? This movement of my foot coming up, which is what's happening as I'm coming down. If I get my foot off the ground, I've lifted my foot, okay? That's dorsiflexion. Dorsiflexion has a very simple test, and this test is specific for you. I always try to describe this test to people as we're doing it, and they look at me weird. It's specific to you. So my body versus your body is gonna have a different measurement, and the measurement we're gonna use is your hand. My hand might be bigger than your hand, so you're gonna use your own hand. You're gonna take your hand, and you're gonna place it against the wall. And we're okay to let the wall, this little, baseboard, wow. Let the baseboard be part of the measurement. You're gonna put your hand down with your hand kind of firm against the wall. Your partner's gonna put their finger next to your thumb. That's your measurement. You're gonna put your big toe at that measurement, and then what you're gonna try to do is you're gonna try to keep your heel down and try to touch the wall with your knee while keeping your heel down, okay? That's the test. Really quick, we're gonna break into partners and we're gonna do this. And I'm gonna give you just a couple minutes, because remember we have 70 slides. The second part of this test is, does it pinch in the front of your ankle, or does it get tight in the back of your ankle if you can't touch? If you can touch, normal test. If you can't touch, you gotta ask tight or pinch, because there's different treatments for those two limitations, okay? Without lifting the heel.
So we should be able to touch the wall with the knee.
Yes, or get very, very close. And look for symmetry, left versus right. Okay, cool? Break it.
Shoes on or shoes off?
It would be better with shoes off, especially if your shoes are thick, rockered, yeah. If you got a flat-soled shoe that's like zero drop, then you can leave it on. Cool, we're gonna just do like a couple minutes and then we're gonna break apart. I'm gonna set a timer so we stay on.
Okay, you want to go first?
Try to keep that heel down.
Wait, are we keeping both heels down? Or
No, just the test leg.
Stop where your heel is,
You
before
guys-
your heel lifts.
You have some wide hands. You
Is that too far out?
put your hand down.
Put it together. I went here.
Yeah, that's
Watch your-
fine.
Watch your hips real quick. So, can you do that again real fast? So, if she peels her hip to the side, it's obviously much easier to get your knee in. But if you keep your hips square, it's more difficult.
It's a good.
Like, so see how she can't get her knee now?
Yep.
Watch what peels. Watch peels to the side. Now go in.
Yeah, it's a great little assessment. So that's gonna be a
Still coming up.
different limitation for her than the calf. So this is like where becomes a little nuanced for her.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so it really doesn't
because
matter.
not for the ankle, no,
Okay,
but
okay.
yeah, she's probably got some.
So when she's lifting her, what's the assessment?
Is it tight in the calf or pinchy in the ankle? Calf. Yeah, good. So that's your treatment's going to be here. in a sense. Like she's probably got some adductor limitation that's changing it. Yeah. Yep. So you guys should have switched already. If not, then we're gonna come back together. Yeah. I know the hardest thing about this lecture is taking out all the little nuances.
Is that pretty good?
Yeah, try the other side and see if it's symmetrical. And that's pretty close, right? We're pretty close. I would imagine that's not limiting your squat.
Like just a little bit right.
Okay, yeah, so that will be different treatments, calf versus pinch. Yep. Yeah, totally. Okay, good. Well,
We're assessing, we want it here, not here.
it doesn't matter too much. It shouldn't matter too much. No. Okay, let's come back together.
Can you feel about the same either way you did it? This is easy.
That's easy.
And this is more challenging.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Where do you feel it?
Okay, let's come back together.
An easy way for them, so with my whole ankle PT,
Yeah.
is just getting in a deep lunge and
And just
doing
holding.
the over toes.
Yeah, perfect.
That's easy for them.
And you're
to
not getting
do.
sharpness.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Okay. So, on this, man, on this whole thing, we're going to go back to clinical reasoning, right? So we have the ankle test. If your test was normal, ignore the future of this limitation until it's not.
So it was, I could kind of cheat by turning my hips and
Yeah.
leaning into it.
Yep.
What would be,
Ideal is straight on hips. Yeah, it's not so much about the ankle that makes it easier when we change the hip position. So just that straight on hip is what we want. Yeah. If you had tension in the back, I'm going to show you a treatment, and then you're going to retest it in the future. If you had tension in the front, I'm going to show you a specific treatment, and then you're going to retest it in the future. When the test is normal, then you're going to stop. That's this whole clinical reasoning thing, right? I don't want to rip through these. You have these in the slides, so you can do the treatments. For time reasons, I want to get through all these pieces, okay? So if you have pinching in the front of your ankle, you're going to take a really thick band. The band is kind of your mobilizing tool, okay? And you're going to place it on top of your ankle. Most people who do this thing will tend to do it wrong because they're going to put it at the ankle on the long bones. I actually want it on the foot. It should be below the pinch. You're going to put, and the reason, how you do this is you're going to anchor it onto something. You're going to put it onto your foot. So your foot kind of needs to be above the anchor point so that that band is pulling down and back, not through straight back, okay? All you're going to do is work the motion. That pinch should go away when you do this with the band. Now I'm working the motion without the pinch, and you're going to do high reps of this, 30, 50 reps several times a day, working the motion with normality. Then go back to the test when there's no more pinching and your motion's better. You don't do this anymore. Okay? So the keys for this, if you had a pinch in the front of your ankle, put this band into the foot and then do the motion without the pinch. If the pinch is still there, adjust the band until the pinch goes away. Okay? The reason we're doing this is your ankle is, here's the shin bone, here's the outside shin bone, the fibula, here's the top of your ankle right here. That ankle, this bone, the talus, is kind of built like a slug bug. It's kind of thick at the front. It's a backward slug bug. It's thick at the front, and it has to glide. So here's my long bones of my ankle. Here's my foot, my toes are over here. That bone's got to slide backwards as I come up. If it doesn't, it gets pinched in the joint and you get ankle pinching. So that band's helping glide it backwards so that we can get this, not this, okay? So that's why we gotta get that band over the foot so that the other long bones can slide over the slug bug so it stops pinching, okay? If you do a calf stretch when you have an ankle pinch, your ankle pinch probably is not gonna get better. So doing the right thing is the importance. So you could Google, how do I get my ankle pinch better in my ankle? And then you could get 1,000 little treatments for that, right? The treatment's less important than doing the right thing for the limitation.
Can I ask you real quick?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like our classes in yoga and bar, we do like the deep lunge. So you know you've got your runner's lunge, and then we go deep lunge, and then we'll like go back into like a tibialis. So is this going to be helpful? Like for,
If it's pinching during the thing, no.
okay.
Right.
So if it's pinching here,
Yep.
this is not going to be helpful.
No, because you're just slamming the slug bug into the joint every time.
Okay.
Right? And so it won't change.
Okay.
So if there is pinching, you could do that same thing with a locked down foot, the band, and do it. The pinch goes away. Now work that, and that should make it better.
And that would make it
Yep.
better.
You
But
could.
it's not a bad thing for them to do if they have a pinch?
No, it's just not the long term.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's achy, tight, tension, awkward, that's fine. If it's pinchy, we want to change it. Yep, yep, yep. There's 1,000 things we could do for that. That's why this first lecture was 2 hours. But that's a great first step. Okay.
Is there a certain length or weight of the band?
As heavy as you can get that thing locked down. You could do a strap. You're trying to lock the foot down so the other bones can slide over it. That's really what you're trying to do with that.
Or just isolate the
That glide method. Yep. If it's tight in the back, you can stretch your calf. You can Theragun your calf. I could needle your calf. What we tend to do over stretching, we don't give stretching very often because we don't think it's actually. Remember we talked about in the injury prevention seminar, stretching increases the rate of injuries. So we don't give a lot of stretching. What you could take a ball, like a tennis ball, lacrosse ball, you could put it into that. You'll find some like tight muscles in the calves, either up high or down low. You could put a little weight into that spot that's tender, and then you could move the muscle under tension and make those muscles relax a little bit, improve it, then go squat. Okay, so treatment of the back of the calf muscles for tension in the back of the calf is how you're going to make that better if you got tension in the back of the calf. Okay, again, this is one treatment that we think is pretty helpful. The needling is incredibly helpful, but treating the back of the calf for the back of the tension is where we want to be, only until it's not limited. Okay, questions on that? This is, you guys have all probably seen that. Everyone has lacrosse balls now. Okay. For time's sake, I'm gonna skip this one. This is rarely a limitation. Let's go to the hip. So first, what you need to do, and you asked this question earlier, the position of your toes, okay? When we're born, if you know x-rays, these are x-rays of 13 months to 1 year old to 3 year old. So 13 months, 3 months, 1 year, 3 years. If you know x-rays, ignore the pathology in this x-ray, okay? The goal of what I want you to see in this is when we're born with straight femurs. Our femurs are like this when we're born. Adults, see this big old angle? That angle happens because bones are alive like muscles and tendons, and as we start walking and moving, our bones bend like this. Our bones bend 3 planes, this way, and this way. Depending on how we move and function and walk as we're kids, as our bones are moving, everyone's femur bones are going to have a fingerprint. They're unique. I cannot squat full depth with straight toes at all. Some of it's my ankle, but some of it's my hip. For me, I've got to have this position here because of my fingerprinted femurs. Everyone's position should be a little different, okay? So just because you see some, like, I knew it was going to happen. I knew you were going to do it. I knew you could squat with toes forward. She can do it. I can't. Okay?
My knees are like the little one.
So what we're going to do is 2 pieces. Remember on this thing, I want to get full depth. First component of that full depth is ankle. The next component, if my ankle's clear, it's going to be hip. If I can't get here, I'm not going to go full depth. You're going to grab your partner. One person's going to lay on their back. The test person's going to lay on their back. You're going to, here, will someone lay back? I'm going to do it on them. Perfect. You okay to lay on your back on the hard floor? The other person's going to bring their hip up. Okay? Do you have problems with the squat, the depth? No. Okay, so in neutral, her toes are, if she was standing, her toes are forward, her hip is not turned out, she can get full depth. Look at her hip crease is below her knee. Okay, I would imagine if we turned her knee out a little bit, it gets a little easier. If we turn her toe out a little bit, it gets a little easier. Okay, now what she's gotten her squat stance, right? Okay, so when she's squatting, she's gonna squat easier if she's got a little wider stance, just a little than hip width for her, and just a little toe out, right? Now, if someone, here's the test, if you're doing this and you're trying to find the easiest pattern of her hip and your partner just can't get below parallel, the next question is, do you have tightness in your butt or do you have pinching in your groin? It's a very similar question to the ankle. We're gonna have two different treatments, right? So if your partner can't get full depth, one, it's probably because we got to work on some stuff and ask the question, is it butt tightness or groin pinching? Okay. If they can get full depth, but they're like, when I squat, I can't, we'll look at that too. But you're going to take a partner, you guys can do this, you're going to easily glide the hip up, and you're just going to find where it naturally wants to go. Okay? Questions? Both sides.
Go first, or you want me to go?
Yeah, so and you don't have any problems with your, yeah, I would be, yeah.
This is where I stop.
Let the knee drop out. So just that little hip width, a little wider than hip width. Yep. Yep. Just a little bit.
If there's any injury or compromise in the knee or hip, is wider better? If it, I mean, I've tissue wise.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like, you know, crunchy. It kind of like dropped.
And if you think like he's in an incredibly deep squat there, right? And so if he's getting pinching there, like maybe not too bad. If you come out of that a little bit, right? Come down to me a little bit, right? And they go wide. And if that, like, there's no crunching there. So your depth is probably fine with no crunching. So it's not a huge, you're at like, you know, he's like sitting on the ground almost.
How far is too far?
Yeah, I mean, not there. There isn't really too far, but like at some point, it's like you're not gonna gain a lot out of that deeper. Yeah. Yeah.
Crunching is a consideration.
Maybe if it's painful or if it's like within that really close, you're crunching within that close range, then it is a consideration for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we should be wrapping up here in a minute.
Are narrow squats beneficial for anything?
Like a narrow versus a wide.
Yeah, because sometimes it's written in a workout to do a narrow squat.
You'll load the tissue slightly different. If they can't do it and it's pinchy, they should just go wide. Yeah. Okay, good. What I don't want you to get out of this is it could be easy to see like, here's my hip, I widen a little bit, now I get deeper, I toe out, I get a little deeper. Okay, here's my position. I don't want that to translate into this, right? That's not where that foot was. My foot was, it's very subtle when we're in standing, right? To get that depth, it's not, that translation doesn't translate to that, okay? So if you went real wide, it's probably not what it was actually like when you're on your hip, on your back. Okay. We're definitely not gonna go an hour, but we can do our best, okay? So you guys all know the pigeon pose. So if I take this position, I just sit back into it, I'll get a good stretch in my butt. It's great, it's fine. Again, if we can make it not a stretch, I think it's better. if you keep your femur vertical, okay, I've got weight in my knee and my hands now. If I just take the weight off my hands, all of the pressure in my femur, you could put a pad on your knee, goes through my butt, and I get a good tension in my butt. Okay, so now all I'm going to do, instead of holding that, I'm going to oscillate, it's not movement really. I'm just going to oscillate pressure out of my hands, into my hands, out of my hands, into my hands, out of my hands, into my hands. That little oscillation of pressure going in through the system is doing this, tension, out, tension, tension, no tension, right? And that oscillation of tension in the position will make your butt muscles relax over time, so that then therefore I can get that depth without restriction in my glute, okay? The reason we do a lot of these things versus a passive stretch is the same reason when you hold a baby, you instantly start oscillating, okay? Totally. So the reason you do this with a baby is because the nervous system loves the oscillation. I'm oscillating my nervous system in and out of tension to get the nervous system to relax over time, to relax those muscles, that then I can work to normalize that relaxation. If I hold the baby, they're not going to be as relaxed. Oscillate your baby butt. Okay. This one we're not going to do here. If you did that and you had a hard time getting to full depth, or you have a hard time getting to full depth, and when you hit full depth, you get pinching in your hip joint. A lot of times what's happening is the muscle of the hip joint, not so much the hip joint, okay? And so if you're getting pinching in your groin, lengthening and strengthening your groin is actually how we're going to make that better. Ironically. So here's the test at home. You can lay on your kitchen counter or table. You're going to use this leg to keep your back flat. That's all this leg's doing, is helping me keep my back flat. This leg is the test leg, and I'm dropping my leg off the side. I should be able to get horizontal or below horizontal in this test with my knee bent to 90. If my knee's cocked out like that and I can get below 90, it means I got, some stuff, I got some hip flexor limitations. If I can't get below the horizontal or to horizontal, I've probably got some hip flexor weakness. Okay, we're going to call tightness weakness. And if you have this, which you can see on your slides at home, then you're going to do strengthening for your hip flexor, not stretching. Again, we keep getting away from stretching. You can take a dumbbell, a really, really heavy, small elastic band, put the band under the dumbbell, lock the band onto your foot. So you know you got a little foot weight. So if you don't have ankle weights at home, you can just make your own little foot weight. Okay? Now, I'm going to do the test. I'm just going to let my leg controlled into extension, which these muscles are contracting and lengthening. And as I get strength in my hip flexors are going to get longer. Stronger muscles are longer muscles. And now all of a sudden, I might not have that hip pinch anymore. If this is the case, we're going to do exercise strength training, right? So 3 sets of 8. 15, less than 15, to fatigue. I'm going to get fatigue in my hip flexors. And I'm going to wait 6 to 8 weeks because it takes time for muscles to adapt and change. And then I'm going to retest the thing, or as I'm squatting, the pinch goes away. Great, I don't have to do this anymore. Okay? So either butt tension, oscillate the baby, pinching of the hip, strengthen the hip with this. There's Google hip flexor strength training. You'll find tons. This is a great way to do it. Okay, questions?
Are you okay to use an ankle weight on that?
Totally.
It doesn't matter if it's on the
No.
or on the...
No, I just, if you've got dumbbells, don't go by ankle weights. Just use the dumbbell with a little strap. It's like light, like 5 to 8 pounds. Because these aren't hip big movers, so they'll get tired pretty quickly, especially if the test is positive.
So are you saying like at the end of a workout, like we just did a workout, we don't need to be stretching at the end?
It's not a bad thing to do when you have no injuries. If you have an injury, stretching it is going to increase the odds of it coming back in the future, right? So when we looked at the graph, the studies, okay, so I have an injury, I get the injury to go away, or I'm making the injury go away. Stretching increases the likelihood of the injury coming back 3%. Proprioception, Tai Chi, balance awareness decreases the injury from coming back 18%. Good. Strength decreases the injury from coming back 56%. So where are we going to put our weight? In strength, because that's where we're going to build that robustness of the system. Strong muscles, you guys can leave whenever you want. This, I don't know how we got so deep into this. So strong muscles, we always think muscles get thicker in diameter, right, when we get stronger. And they do. They also get longer in length. So a strong muscle is a long muscle. So we get it strong, okay? Most muscles that are tight are, the brain is making them tight to protect the system, or they're weak and they've shrunk, okay?
Thank you. I know we're
Yeah.
for time, but I have to like solve this in my own head.
Sure.
Okay, so I need to understand this because we do a lot of yin yoga. We do a lot of.
And then none of this is bad.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to really make sure that I'm understanding because
So no
I do see
canceling
people.
your classes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's and here the specificity of this is we are very specifically talking about injuries and injury recovery.
Thank you. Okay,
Yes,
because I see a lot
It's
of
great.
people. I tell them all the time, you have an injury, you want to overstretch. I'm like, don't do that because you're irritating. You'll have like a hip thing and you're like, oh, and you just stretch and stretch, and I'm like, don't do that. And so I
Yes.
just need to understand.
No,
that.
good. We said it once. Clarity again. Injury rehab, getting away from injuries, getting better from injuries. That's the specific information. Okay. Stretching is not bad.
When I like to give it to my clients, the stretching doesn't make the knots go away, because a lot of people think it's not in tissue, but it's like a knot in a chain. You can't pull a knot loose when it's stuck in a chain. You have to push it together
Yeah, great.
and unravel it so that you can get more functionality out of it. So don't
It's
stretch.
great.
Come to the fascia flow class.
Friday.
I'm gonna go. So, I'm gonna go over this one. There's a couple others you guys can test yourselves. I want to get to a couple other pieces. So, is this helpful? These are the two biggest limitations typically. I asked Michonne if you guys are front squatting, and you guys are, right? You guys are front squatting sometimes. So, thoracic extension is needed for a front squat. Okay. So in this test, you're going to sit in your chair, you're going to have your arms behind your back, you're going to try to raise up your arms as far as you can. This is like, I have tons of motion here. If you can't get your elbows to 45, you have a thoracic limitation. Okay? So if you find yourself front squatting and your bar's always falling forward, or it's really hard to stay into your whole foot because it's always coming forward, it might be because as I'm front squatting, the weight's more forward. I've got to be able to keep that weight over the middle of my foot. If I have limitations here, it goes over my foot and I fall forward. So this might be the issue with your front squat, right?
What's 45?
So here's the point. I should be able to get to 45 off that angle.
Right, not out.
Yeah, elbows in, lift up. I should be able to get to 45. Okay? So this is something you guys can test on yourselves. If it is limited, there's tons of treatments. If you look at this thing, I'm doing the test, but instead of holding it, I'm oscillating. Watch, you'll see me just oscillate in and out of the test. Right? I'm calming down the baby. Okay. If you can do it, but you struggle to keep that bar up high, it might not be a motion issue, it might be a strength issue. So you could then just take the bottom of the squat, put some weight in front of you, just like the front squat, and you could work thoracic extension strength to build that up. Now all of a sudden I'm more robust here, so when the weight's there, I'm not weak here. That's going to make the bar fall forward and then me fall forward. So now I can just work strength. So if it's not a motion issue, but you still struggle with this, work strength. Okay? Sweet. I'm just going to show you this really quick. So on a front squat, most people hate front squats because it says it hurts their wrist. It's like, ow, it pinches. Most of the time when you front squat, the wrist is the victim of the shoulder. So when I front squat, I want my hands outside my shoulder like this, and the bar is actually resting on my shoulder and arm. My arm's kind of keeping the bar locked into my shoulder, right? Because the bar is kind of sitting like this on my fingers, but it should be outside. If I can't get my shoulder out, my hand outside my shoulder, it sits here. Now the bar is resting on my hand and it's pinching my wrist. So if you have wrist pain with front squats, it's because of this limitation. To test it, you put yourself onto a wall or a door jamb or a rig. You put yourself in that front squat position of the elbow right here, and you see how far your hand can move outside your shoulder. If you can't move your hand outside your shoulder, you have a shoulder limitation that's pissing off your wrist. What you'll do, simple enough, is you'll just take a PVC pipe and you're gonna hold it. You're gonna hold it on the outside of your hand like this, or a broom, whatever. Just gotta be a stick. You're then gonna be in the position of the front squat. It doesn't make sense to work it down here. We gotta work it here. I'm gonna take my other hand. I'm gonna work the motion. Right? So if this is my motion, I'm going to start working the motion. Instead of holding it, I'm going to oscillate in and out of the motion. Once I get here outside my shoulder, I'm going to just work the motion. The beauty of the front squat is it's not a strength thing because the weight is pushing my arm into the position. I don't have a strength limitation here, right? So we don't have to work strength really. But if I don't have the motion for it, I got to get the motion first. Okay, we're ripping through this, and it's one of the reasons why it's one of the reasons why I want you to have the slides, because I want you to be able to work on these things, right? Because ultimately the limitation's going to take time to change. Okay, all right. So let me just go to some important pieces I want to highlight. All of these are in the slides, so you can test these other pieces. We test shoulder flexion. We test wrist extension. Wrist is just like the foot, pinching in the front, pulling in the back. You're going to have two different things. Okay, it's just like the ankle. All right, special considerations. If you're having a limitation, I still want you squatting. Don't say, my ankle's limited, I found a limitation in the thing, I haven't squatted for the last 6 months because I'm trying to get my ankle better. No. The squat's so worth it, so keep squatting, but work on the limitations on the side. Don't stop squatting, okay? That's why I wanted to rip through this. I don't want you to miss this message. Keep squatting, work the limitations. When the limitations are gone, then stop working the limitations, yeah.
Will you put the thing back up so we can get the slide?
Yeah. Okay, good. If you have back pain, a lot of times you'll be like, oh, I strained my back. I'm not going to work out today because it's a squat day and I'm worried that it might hurt my back. You can modify your squat to offload your back in order to keep working out. And maybe when we look at the best things you could do for your back when it's hurt, general exercise is the best thing you could do. So now we're limiting our general exercise, which is what my back needs, just because we're worried the squat's going to hurt my back. This guy, his knees are past his toes, his hip is full depth. The only difference this position is the bar is low on his back, which is a fine thing. It's called a low bar back squat, or it's high on his back. The bar has to sit in the middle of the foot. And so if you put your bar low, you've got to hinge over more. If I put my bar high, I'm upright more. So I can change the load on my back with a good squat based on where I put the weight.
Is the load less if it's back further?
Nope.
It's
Same.
less. Oh.
Yep. So we have a goblet squat. This guy's holding a weight, dumbbell, kettlebell, just like a front squat. It's in front of me now. Now it's easier to keep on my foot. I can keep my trunk upright. As I bring the bar back, I've got to get my hip over, my trunk over to keep it over the middle of my foot. If I get the bar low, I've got to get a little bit more hinged over, right? And so same squat depth, different position of the weight, changes to the load of the spine. All of this is totally fine for the spine. But if I hurt my back, I might not want to do this today. Maybe I modify my workout for the day and I do this and it feels good on my back. So try to work out, try to squat, and work around these limitations because the general exercise is going to be best for your back. Does that make sense? Is that good? Okay. I'm going to skip these. Okay, so a Zerker squat is where you put the bar into your arms. So when we talk about thoracic extension strength, what's hard is if I'm front squatting with like 105 pounds and I'm holding in the med ball and I'm doing like 10-pound med ball extensions for thoracic strength, there's a gap between the 10 pounds that I'm doing and the 105-pound front squat, and I just can't get strong enough for that 105-pound front squat for my thoracic extension. You could put a bar, this is a hard workout, so you could squat with a Zerker squat. It goes in your elbows. Now the weight's really far forward and my trunk's really got to work to keep upright. And now I can get better thoracic extension strength for the Zerker squat, which is going to make my front squat better. So there's tons of tools to make this system better for the limitations. Okay. Where did the time go? Okay, this is the last thing. So valgus is when my knee collapses midline. Remember we talked about point of performance, I want my knee over my second toe or wide of my second toe. I don't want this, okay? And so what you'll see a lot in the gym, especially as we get towards our heavier weights, which I know you guys finished a cycle of heavy weights recently. We have valgus here and we have varus here, okay? Valgus we don't want, unless we do. A valgus collapse is when I'm squatting and I'm coming down and one leg drops in. That's a valgus collapse, okay? A valgus whip is when I'm coming down and both legs come out and I happen to be at the higher end of my strength threshold. This is not what we want. This is a very, very beneficial tool. And what we could make the mistake of is as we get heavy in our squat load, this happens, we try to fight it, it makes us weaker, we don't squat as heavy, we don't get the benefits. Okay, so here's the difference. So I kind of showed it to you. This is the valgus collapse. I got one leg collapsing in, right? If your partner's doing this, tell them like push your right leg wide, like fix that valgus collapse. If I've got a valgus whip, as I'm coming out of the hole, there will be a moment where the knees come together and then pop back out. It's a whip, okay? This is a physiological benefit because when you go back to the very beginning of this lecture, there was the deep squat builds more muscle than partial squat, right? The biggest muscle to get thicker, stronger when we squat is the adductor magnus, not the butt, not the quad. The adductor magnus sits right here. It makes up 30% of the mass of our thigh, okay? It's a huge muscle. They take all these other muscles out of here's the kneecap, there's the adductor magnus. It is huge, okay? And if you think about how that's pulling, it's doing this. It's also doing this. If I put those together, it does that. If I put my foot on the ground, it does that, okay? So, and it's the biggest muscle, it's the biggest developed muscle while we squat. So if you squatted and you're like, why the heck are my adductors so sore? It's because this muscle is a big worker, okay? So what's happening is, as I get really heavy and I'm coming out of the hole, my adductor magnus is at an opportune time to do the work. And so your knees do that a little bit symmetrically at the bottom to whip out, and it's muscle work, it's not collapsing, okay? So if you see this, great. This is Tia Claire Toomey. She's like where is it? Oh no, oh here it is. So she's like a 6 times CrossFit Games champion. She's lifting a lot of weight right here. And watch her knees right here. As she comes out of the hole, watch her knees. Woo. And then watch, as she gets out of the hole, they come back wide, and then she finishes the squat.
Go girl.
Okay? This is an adductor whip. This is not an adductor collapse, a valgus collapse. Okay? No. It will happen naturally. You don't have to think about it. Yep. As your weight gets heavy, this will naturally happen. If you have symmetrical whipping, No cueing of knees out. You're disadvantaging the body. Okay? So there's a little that it's such a because you're working so hard. Let's not take away some of the benefits here with having this subtle little difference: one-legged versus symmetrical whip out of the bottom. Okay, it's just fun to watch her.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So that bar, this is 225. This is 255. This is 245 pounds. She weighs 130 probably. Okay. Circling back to my last lecture, what we love to say is I hurt my back because of my technique and form when I was lifting. And it's not wrong, but my goodness is there so much more to the picture, right? Injuries don't occur because of purely form. They occur because I'm overtrained. They occur because I had poor recovery. They occur because I'm stressed out. They occur because I haven't slept well. They occur because I've been stressed and I haven't been eating as well. And then I sleep worse. And now my body system is weaker and my brain is a little bit more irritable and it's at risk averse. Right? So I just heard something recently and it goes perfectly to this. This is a predictive model. Our senses and our body and our experiences in our life are all inputs to the predictive model. And if all of our inputs are telling our predictive model that there's risk, the predictive model is going to give muscle tension across the area in order to protect the risk. If we blame it on the mechanics, not all of the inputs to the predictive model. So the more we can change the predictive model with change of belief system, perspective, and good workouts, this starts to change the occurrence of injuries. Next seminar, I will do my best to be on time. We're going to talk about the shoulder. So we skipped a lot of the shoulder because we're going to talk about mobility of the shoulder. Next time, we're just going to talk shoulder, okay? And we're going to do the same thing we did today. I won't do as much research. We're going to here's the test, do the test, here's how to treat it. And we're going to go through a bunch of different shoulder limitations and how to treat it, okay? That's next month, April 11th. Questions? Yeah. Sorry, that was rushed, but you have the slides. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. You're very welcome. I'll put the QR code back up.